Hello there, Ray here, and they have released a new snapshot. This is 1.13.2 pre-release 1. This means that they're going to come out with 1.13.2. This is going to come out hopefully on Thursday if this snapshot goes well. This snapshot is mostly dedicated to improving the performance of 1.13.1. As you guys know, 1.13 was pretty laggy, and as well as 1.13.1 tried to improve this, but there is still quite a bit of stuff that can be improved. And with 1.13.2, they're going to try to address all this and have a new full release to go with it. So this snapshot, as well as the full release, will not have any of the 1.14 content. That will all come very soon, they say. So they're going to start snapshots for that separately, and it'll be coming out very soon. So the first thing with this pre-release is that they have came in and have increased the performance for upgrading your world. So here I got a world that's in 1.12. If I go to edit, and then I can go to optimize world, and this will get ready for 1.13.1. So let's click on that. And then it gives you a warning that this will get your world ready for 1.13, but will not allow you to downgrade it once again. So you always make a backup of it. So if you click, you know what you're doing, let's see how fast it takes us for the upgrade. Now this is a pretty small world, just size of one player render distance. You can see it upgrades really fast. Let's go ahead. It's ready for the pre-release, and yeah, let's just hop into the world. And this is just a world download of the jungle perimeter that we're working on Protect. Let's just take a look at it. Yeah, upgrades. Yep, I was just testing some fly machines, make sure they're working. And yeah, you can see our jungle perimeter looks pretty nice. So that seemed to upgrade the world pretty fast. So the second thing that they said that they changed is they improved the time it takes for the game to start up. So let's just open the world up. And you can see before I used to sit there and kind of do the percentage thing for quite a while before allowing you to get into the game. And wow, that was fast. So yeah, pretty much I can definitely tell there's a big difference there. So let's just check out the startup time for 1.13.1. We're pressing play. You see it load. You see a couple different percentages over there. When we were in the previous one, it just like showed one percentage and then it would just instantly go back into the game. They also improved the performance of mob spawning. So we were talking with Rock and Roll for Life, one of the Minecraft developers, and he works on the Java edition. He was talking about how he was working on some other stuff in 1.14, and while he was at it, he noticed that there was a lot of complaints about mobs being able to spawn and despawn when the player was very high up in the air. So they went ahead and he fixed this, and the way he fixed this is he just made it so that mobs wouldn't attempt to spawn if the player is so far away. So I got my other count way up in the air, and you'll see as soon as I pull the player away, so he is greater than 128 meters away from any of these mobs, then they'll all despawn. So I'm just going to go upwards, and you'll start to see that the mobs are going to despawn. See how fast they all despawn? It's pretty crazy. And then when the player comes back down, the mobs are able to spawn in again. Now let's take a look at what it was like at 1.13.1. So I hop back into 1.13.1, and this is what would used to happen all the time if you're AFKing high. Let's say you got some farm AFKing high up in the air, and the lag from this is pretty bad. As you can see, all these mobs have to spawn in, and then they have to despawn, so they're removed from the game. That wasn't so bad at 1.12 because there was just mostly squid in the oceans, but with 1.13 came the fish, and the fish are very unique. We're talking with Rock and Roll for Life, and he was talking about how every time one of those fish spawn in, fish has to decide if he is going to be the leader of that pack, and then all the other fish have to check all the other fish around him and see if they should join that pack or join like a different leader pack. And then they also have to determine where they want to like swim, and like if that leader is over there, then they have to like say, okay, I'm gonna have to go swim towards that leader. And you can see that there's a lot of checking that has to go on just to do with these fish. And the fish are only in the game for like one game tick, so the game's trying to do all these calculations and they're not even needed. So it's really glad that they came in and just prevented the fish from spawning here in the first place. That way they wouldn't have to do all the calculations. Now, fish still have to do these calculations if they are near the player in 1.13.2, but because the majority of them were having this kind of scenario occurring, so this was causing most of the lag with 1.13.1. What the game used to do is spawn in mobs in about a 15 by 15 chunk area, as high as the world is and as low as it is, and it would try to spawn them in, and then it would then check and see if the mob was greater than 128 meters away in a sphere from where the player was. And if it was farther than that, then it would remove the mob from the game. So that's what caused them to spawn in and then be removed. Now with the update, they will not even spawn in if they're farther than this distance. Instead, they'll only spawn in if they can be able to stay spawned in, so within that 128 meter radius sphere around the player. Now, this didn't just affect the water mob spawning, this affected all mob spawning. So bats would do this, where they spawn in and despawn, and hostile mobs would do it as well. As you can see, these ones in front of us in the caves are farther than our player who's AFKing up in the air, and then they are coming in and then despawning. Talking with Rock and Roll for Life, he assured us that doesn't apply to the passive mobs, so they're able to spawn in greater than the sphere distance around the player, and then they won't be able to despawn just like they normally never despawn. You can still make really large passive mob farms that take up the entire like 15 by 15 area around a passive mob farm, and then you can push them into like the nether portals. Now the same thing could also occur if the player was AFKing far away on the ground. So if the player is AFKing on the landmass over there, and then there's really no water except for let's say over here, then the player is able to have the water mobs spawn in, but since they are farther than him, the 128-meter sphere radius, then they will despawn. So it doesn't have to necessarily do with players AFKing above, but it's most noticeable when the player is AFKing above some water. They've also came in and improved the pathfinding for turtles. As you guys probably know, turtles are able to pathfind back to the original beach. So if I would go ahead and this turtle would get moved far away, you would then try to pathfind all the way back to this very beach to get here. And that can be quite a strenuous thing on the server. It's a nice thing that they did this because I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people that have pet turtles in their worlds. Another bug to do with upgrading world is that they still have a problem with chests when upgrading. They sometimes lose some of their contents on along a chunk border, and they tried to fix this in earlier snapshots, but apparently they didn't get it all fixed, and they have that fixed now in this snapshot. So you shouldn't have to worry about your items getting lost when upgrading to 1.13 anymore. But I'm guessing most people probably have already upgraded their worlds, except for some people that have been holding off because of 1.13 being so laggy. This will be really nice when like ProTech upgrades to like 1.13. Problem is, we're planning to upgrade to 1.13.0, then 1.13.1, then 1.13.2. So maybe we'll have to upgrade to like 1.13.2 and then downgrade back to 1.13.1. We'll figure out something. The developers have been tweeting out different things that they have been improving with the game, and one of the things that they're working on next is the Redstone Rock and Roll for Life. Working on this, and we've been talking with him, and he has a fix that is kind of best of both worlds. It doesn't quite do as much changes as we would like. Like Theosa, one of the Protect members, came out with a really nice one that increases it by several times over. Where Rock and Roll is going to change it so that it increases it by about 50%, which is pretty good, but it's not going to change the code as much. So hopefully if this one goes well, he may go ahead and add in Theo's redstone change, which is like his turbo redstone, which would really increase the performance of how redstone does, and minimize the amount of updates it does every time it turns on as well as turning off. And that's why we try to avoid using a lot of redstone dust when working with large components. So machines like my sea pickle farm here, which uses a lot of redstone turning on and off with this clock, could probably see an improvement just because of the updates it creates. And you could come in here and put in some other different types of blocks, but a lot of times it's easier just to throw down redstone. So it's really nice that they're going to try to fix it. That way people don't have to try to always avoid redstone. But they said that this is not going to come in with 1.13.2. Instead, since it's kind of experimental with redstone dust, it's going to be in 1.14. So that improvement to the game will have to wait to 1.14. They've also said that they've done some general performance improvements overall through the game. I'm guessing as they're working on different parts of 1.4, they might see this little thing that they could tweak and they just go ahead and work on that. And I find this really reassuring. That means that like if they see a bug, they don't just completely ignore it and just keep working on 1.14 stuff. They kind of take a little bit of time set aside to maybe go after that little bug, especially if it's something really simple like how they did with the mob spawning. So with this pre-release came a lot of general performance improvements, and hopefully you guys will notice this. I would recommend you guys probably test this out in your single player worlds and see if you guys really notice improvements. I sure did just by walking around throughout the world and checking out some of my other worlds. If everything goes well, they'll release the full release of 1.13.2 on Thursday this week. And then they said they're going to start coming out with the 1.14 snapshots. So stay tuned for those. I know many people will be really glad that they came out with a 1.13.2 version. Otherwise, they would have to wait all the way to like a 1.14 full release before going ahead and upgrading some of their servers and maybe some of their more mainstream worlds. This is a great way for servers to go ahead and be able to play around with 1.13 without having to worry about all the dreads of the lag and everything else that came with it. I'd like to thank you for watching, and if you found this interesting, show me the like and share this with others. If you'd like to see future 1.14 snapshot reviews, go ahead and subscribe and hit that bell button to get notifications of when those come out. And tell me what you guys think about the new 1.13.2 pre-release in your very own worlds. Bye-bye!